We're going to take a look at setting up a basic BGP route exchange between these couple of autonomous systems here. So a couple things that we have set up. On the left side is autonomous system number 42, that is the blue network, and the yellow network is autonomous system number 88. What I've done ahead of time is configured all of the IP addresses on the routers. In addition to that, I've configured the IP addresses in the laptops as well. So the laptops are running like a 172.16.42.0/24, and on the right side here, it is 172.16.88.0/24. So what I want to accomplish here is just getting a basic route exchange between these two different autonomous systems, and then later on we can look at setting up some security or doing a multi-homed environment as well. So to give you an idea of what the IP addresses look like here, on the Madison router, if we pull up this menu, or we can just pop right into the router and look at it this way too, we can do a show IP in brief. And you can see our gig 0 that's connected to the laptop, our serial 0, this is the top serial connection that you saw in the diagram, the bottom serial network, and then of course I put a loopback here for later use as well. On the other side of the chart, we'll see pretty much the same thing, just the other side of that network. So if we do a show IP interface brief, see the same thing here. So the 88.1, that's going down to the laptop, and then our serial 0 is the top connection, and serial 1 just the bottom connection, along with that loopback for later use here as well. So let's go ahead and start out on the Madison router, and we can get the BGP configuration set up for that. So what I want to do is just jump right onto Madison. And we'll clear this off a little bit, start from a clear screen there. What we're going to do is we're going to go into our config T. We're going to go into the BGP configuration for autonomous system number. In this case, Madison is ASN number 42. So this will be router BGP 42. I need to tell it what networks it should be advertising in BGP, and this is similar to what you saw in OSPF and EIGRP. So you have to know what your network ID is that you're going to try to advertise. I'm going to advertise the network of 172.16.42.0 with the mask of 255.255.255.0. Okay, so we're just putting our networks into BGP. I also need to tell BGP who my neighbor is. So I'm going to go with neighbor. And if we go to our diagram here, you remember that this top serial connection was the 192.168.42.0. So ASN 42 took the .1 address, and ASN 88 took the .2 address. So my neighbor in this case is .2. So I'm just going to issue the neighbor 192.168.42.2. I also need to know the remote AS, and so that autonomous system of the yellow network was 88. So as simple as that. Start out with the configuration of the ASN in BGP. Specify the networks you would like to push out into the BGP realm. Configure who your neighbor's IP address is and what their autonomous system number is. Let's go do that same thing on the other side here. Going back to the Fargo router, we'll do the same exact thing through this. So we're going to go into config T. This time it'll be router BGP 88, since that's our current ASN that we're on. We'll specify our networks. So network 172.16.88.0 with the mask of 255.255.255.0. Again, we tell it who our neighbors are. So neighbor, this will be 192.168.42.1, and the remote AS for that is just 42. So very cool. We can see as soon as we hit that, we get the BGP adjacency change. Our neighbor adjacency has gone to up. And what we'll do here is just take a look at our BGP summary. So you can just do a show IP BGP summary. So I've got one neighbor. We can see the autonomous system of that neighbor, the messages received and sent, the table version is kind of like a serial number for your routing table, and how long we've been up with them. If you do a show IP route, we can see we've learned about the 42.0 network through BGP. So all seems pretty well so far. Now there is one thing about this network that we're not quite doing yet. We're not taking advantage of our dual or those redundant links. What that means is if this top serial network were to go away, so if I were to get rid of this, we have a redundant link, we have another path back to those, but we haven't configured it to use that yet. So if we just take a look at this, we see that's down, and BGP has told us the interface is flapped or gone down. If I just show IP route, our BGP routes are gone. So we haven't taken advantage of the dual network yet. Now one way to fix this, and I'll show you in this video, is to just configure a second neighbor on that router. So I'm going to go back into Config-T. We'll go into router BGP, and we're on router, or ASN rather, 88. I need to just basically tell it another neighbor that it can talk to. So I'm going to go with neighbor 192.168.42.5. So that would be the Madison router's serial 1 interface. And tell it their remote AS is 42. Let's go do the same thing on the other router. So on Madison, we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to go into Config-T, router BGP 42. We're going to set up a neighbor with 192.168. This will be 42.6, and the remote AS on this one is 88. If we do an end here, we can see that neighbor adjacency change is back up. And if we do our show IP BGP summary, we can see that we've got our new neighbor within there. And if we just look at our show IP route, there we see that BGP route is back in. So that's one way of doing redundancy, is just configuring each interface to form a neighbor adjacency with your peers. When I connect those back up, we've got our fully redundant links again, and everything should be well that way. And there you can see that neighbor came up as well. One last time, we'll show IP BGP summary. Show IP BGP summary. And there we can see basically the up-down counter just restarted for that one. So all is well in this network.